This is going to be my last video today. I've made quite a few, been on a bit of a roll today actually. But I can't go to sleep without making this one. Because the thoughts are raw in my mind. I've just watched a documentary, Jesse Ventura's conspiracy theory, on Wall Street, exposing Wall Street's greed. Now I have to say I don't buy into all of these conspiracy theory episodes, and I don't always appreciate his particular approach. Having said that, I am grateful that he confronts these greedy bastards head on. Unfortunately, there's no one in Britain with the power to do that. I can't see it happening in Britain. A similar situation with someone standing up in that sort of way to our banking fat cats. But I've just watched another video clip from NTD TV, which is a Chinese channel, English language Chinese channel, and it basically, the title, I'll put a link to it in this, is 5 Reasons for Bank Bonuses, something along those lines. Now, I take issue with this. Obviously, I take issue with it anyway, but I take issue with NTD TV. Usually that's a channel I respect. They're very good at exposing human rights issues in China and the sort of corruption and abuses of the Chinese Communist Party. But on this occasion, I think they made a big mistake. Firstly, the headline was misleading. It implies that that is their opinion, when really it's a quote from people they're interviewing. Secondly, if they're going to interview 5 greedy bankers or pro-banker people, then they should interview people who are really suffering in Britain as a result of the recession, to balance things out a bit. I'd interview other people on what they think of banker bonuses, because it's fair to say that universal, very widespread consensus in Britain is one of absolute revulsion. So we could say this video is about bank bonuses. I've heard a lot of excuses. I've heard sort of financial mumbo jumbo about why bonuses are justified. I've heard the argument, oh well, sports stars get unlimited pay, why shouldn't we? I see absolutely no moral justification whatsoever for bank bonuses. Why? Because these people already have massive salaries to start off with. And I would really like to see them put on the spot and grilled. Really put under pressure. I want to see them sweat under the collar and answer the question, why is it your salary is not enough? Why are you such a greedy rat that you want more? And I have to admit, this is an issue that makes my blood boil, and I'm not the only one. There's many people in Britain with strong views on this, because it's not so much the bonuses in themselves, it's the fact that these people already have a huge salary, and it's the fact that failed banks are essentially being rewarded. That is how it looks to the common man, so to speak. Now, I have to be honest, economics is not my strong point, but I don't believe you have to be an economist. I don't believe you have to be an expert on the terminology, on the ins and outs, to see something so obvious that massive bonuses on top of a huge salary is clearly morally perverse at a time when millions of people are struggling. You don't have to be an economist to work out that's wrong. Now, economics is an area I would like to gain knowledge on. I'd like to improve my understanding of it. I do find it rather tedious and rather complex. But, like I say, I cannot see any moral rationale why such massive bonuses are justified. I just can't. And if it's the case that bankers think they're being picked on, I'd go and say, well, let's just drop bonuses all round. Let's just stop this filthy bonus culture that is basically the ugly face of neo-capitalism. I think that Switzerland has introduced a policy whereby the top CEO of a company will never make more than 10 times the lowest paid employee. That to me sounds like a very rational approach, i.e. having a limit. In Britain right now, in the city of London, there are essentially no limits. London, along with New York City, is basically a place where there is unlimited greed, unrestrained greed. And the sad and worrying thing is we have a government that openly endorses this. The power of the City of London, my economic knowledge is enough to know that it is a big part of the British GDP. But there's something very perverse about that situation. It's essentially a case that the City of London, the square mile, is holding this country to ransom. Now what I mean by that is these bankers are saying, give us our bonuses or we will go overseas. They're hijacking the nation essentially. And if you look at this clip, if you look at how obnoxious these people are, I wonder, do they really realise just how much they are hated? I believe they live in their own little bubble. They don't know the real world. And I really, really, really do wish that they could just see just how much they were hated. I'm not advocating violence. I'm not advocating that anything actually happened to them in terms of vigilantism or anything like that. I'm just saying, if they realise just how hated their attitude is, maybe, just maybe, they would reflect on it. And I really think the media is also partly to blame for this, because they have not put banking greed under the spotlight as much as they should have. Yes, there's been headlines, yes, there has been coverage of it, but I made a programme recently about Benefit Street. Now, why can't TV producers make a programme exposing bankers, putting bankers on the spot, following them around, forcing them to do interviews? Why not? And it basically just shows the rotten inequality of Cameron's Britain. It's repulsive. It's morally repugnant. If you have a heart, if you have any sort of conscience, you would see that this is just not right. And you don't have to be a far leftist. You don't even have to be, I'm not anti-wealth per se. I've nothing against people being well off if they've worked hard, fine. I'm not anti-wealth. I'm not even I wouldn't describe myself as anti-capitalist per se. But extremes of anything are dangerous. And this is unrestrained neo-capitalism. In the square mile, what we are seeing is absolute unlimited greed. I remember a while back, there was a report that said bankers feared for their safety, admitting there were bankers going into the City of London. I have to say I have no sympathy with them, none whatsoever. Because these people have done nothing to give themselves sympathy. Instead of showing some humility, they've made excuses for their bonuses. And I just find that morally repugnant. Now, I would say, yes, it's true, they're not the only people where greed can be seen. I do think some of the money that's involved in sports is also repugnant, i.e. at football. That is also morally repugnant. This is the ugly face of neo-capitalism, unrestrained greed, unrestrained wealth. Surely, there has to be a situation that changes in this country where these bankers are not above reproach. At the moment they seem untouchable. And that makes my blood boil. Basically, the City of London feels like it's protected. Well, it is actually protected by a barrier for counter-terrorism measures brought in after the IRA bombed it in, I think it was 92. But I was speaking in metaphorical terms. There seems to be this glass bubble around the city whereby these people are just protected. A very large proportion of the public feel contempt for this. But they are not facing the same sort of threats as unemployed people. Unemployed people face a very real threat of hate crime. Disabled Britons face that every single day. But these greedy bankers, who are hated, are protected by the government. And it just makes me sick to the core. Now, like I say, I'm not an economist. I don't claim that I am. I don't claim to be an economic expert on this. If I got into an economic debate with someone, I probably wouldn't last long. I hold my hand up and admit that. But I don't think you have to be an economist to see that there's something very, very morally corrupt about this. About people making massive bonuses, A, when they already have a huge salary, and B, when millions of people are struggling. Now, I'm not saying that they should live on the same salary as people in other jobs. I'm not suggesting that. It wouldn't happen anyway. All I'm saying is that there's something very morally perverse about bonus culture. The Tories like to talk about something for nothing, and they're talking about the unemployed. But I think the real something for nothing is banks that fail, then rewarding their CEOs with massive payouts. And it isn't just banks. You see this in some other industries as well, with big companies. Basically, the payout bonus culture in this country, and is very profound in the United Kingdom. Possibly this is the worst country in the world. I'm wondering, are we even worse than the United States? Because at least there, you see the situation Jesse Ventura confronted these bastards. In Britain, there hasn't been a situation where basically the banking elite are still treated with far too much damn respect by politicians. Too many politicians grovel to these people. I'm not going to generalise. I believe there's decent MPs who do realise it's wrong, but the powers that be, Cameron and his cronies absolutely do not. In fact, they protect them. And that is just one more dark shadow over Cameron's legacy. It makes my blood boil. And it's not a case of jealousy. I have no desire to have that sort of money. I just think it's grossly unfair. The bonus culture is repulsive. What more could be said? I'll leave it there.